Let's dive right in, because today, in this explainer, we are breaking down one of the absolute most expensive misunderstandings in modern business. We are talking about the massive, and I mean literally massive difference between simply setting up an AI tool and actually designing your business to use it. If you're a business owner, an operator, or a leader trying to roll out AI right now, you're going to want to stick around for this.
Here's our starting point, and it's a bit of a harsh reality. Your IT team can install AI. That doesn't mean the business can actually use it. See, a successful technical launch, the moment the software is turned on and the logins finally work, that often just masks a looming operational failure. We see it all the time. Businesses celebrating that a tool is live, entirely unaware that without a completely redesigned workflow, their team is just going to revert right back to their old habits in a matter of weeks.
Which brings us to Section 1, the AI implementation myth.
So why is this myth so easy to fall for? Well, think about it. You pick a tool. The software looks incredible, the demo makes total sense, and the vendor swears the setup is a breeze. So what's your next totally logical move? You hand it right over to IT. You ask them to connect the accounts, configure the access, set up the APIs, check the security, the whole shebang. It just feels like a standard software rollout, right?
Now, before we go any further, I want to make one thing crystal clear. Actually, scratch that. I want to emphasize this. IT absolutely matters. We are not dismissing the technical layer here. Without your IT team securing access, connecting those accounts, and keeping your data safe, literally nothing works. They handle the technical configuration, and they do it exceptionally well. They make the platform live. But here is the fatal trap, expecting your IT team to redesign your business's entire operating model.
Moving on to Section 2, technical live versus operationally useful. This is where we need to draw a very hard line, installation versus implementation. Installation is technical. Implementation, on the other hand, is operational. They are completely different milestones. Look, a dashboard loading perfectly and an API connecting without throwing errors, that just means the tool is technically live. It does not equal operational readiness. If your team has no idea who reviews the AI's output, who approves the decisions, or who handles the weird exceptions, well, the tool might be live, but it's basically operationally useless. To really put this into perspective, let's look at the number 3. According to McKinsey's 2025 State of AI research, a massive 88% of organizations are using AI regularly. But most of them, they're stuck in experiment mode. The high performers, though, the ones pulling real, measurable value out of this tech, they're nearly 3 times more likely to have fundamentally redesigned their individual workflows. They didn't just install a flash new tool, they completely re-engineered how the work actually happens around it. Let's look at what goes wrong in Section 3, the failure pattern.
Okay, imagine this case in point, the technically live AI assistant for client inquiries. Let's say you run a professional services business. You decide to slap an AI assistant on your website. The technical setup, flawless. The knowledge base is fully uploaded, the CRM integration passes every test with flying colors, and leadership pats themselves on the back and says, great, it's implemented. But then, the real world arrives, right? A hot lead comes through after hours, but the sales team is looking around wondering who actually owns the follow-up. Or a client asks a super complex, highly sensitive question, but the rules for escalating that to a real human are totally undefined. Maybe a staff member spots a hallucination or an error in an AI summary. There's no human review design, so they're sitting there wondering, do I correct this, ignore it, report it? The handoffs are a total mess, and responsibility is completely vague. Which brings us to this incredibly frustrating conclusion. The tool works, the workflow does not. Within a couple of weeks, you'll see your staff just quietly going back to their old email chains and manual checks. And you know what? The issue wasn't IT. IT did their job. The fatal flaw was that the business treated the technical setup as the entire implementation. They dropped a highly advanced tool right into an outdated workflow and just expected magic.
This is why we need Section 4, Designing the AI Workflow.
I absolutely love this insight from Boston University's 2026 analysis. The gap between AI pilots and scaling is almost never technical. It's fundamentally about leadership, process, governance, and accountability. It's about decision rights. A tool can have the most beautiful API connections in the world, but if it's placed inside a broken or totally undefined operational system, there's no way it's ever going to scale.
So this is exactly what you need to map out. You've got to design the human handoffs. Ask yourself right now, when does the AI assist? When does a human step in to review? At what exact point does the system escalate? Who ultimately owns the final decision? And how are mistakes tracked and corrected? Because remember this rule of thumb, vague responsibility very quickly becomes nobody's responsibility.
Having a human in the loop isn't just a catchy marketing slogan, it is a totally vital operational design decision.
And this structured approach is exactly why smart businesses are partnering with experts like Omnisenti. They don't just install software and walk away. They move businesses from technical setup to real, breathing operational use through a very deliberate architecture. It's a 6-step flow. First, they audit the workflow, then they blueprint the design and architect the system. Only after that do they integrate, implement, and finally operationalize. They make sure the AI is placed perfectly inside a working system, completely tailored to how your business actually operates day to day.
Bringing us to our final part, Section 5, where the value is won.
Consider this insider perspective for a second. AI projects rarely fail at the moment of installation. They fail at the moment work has to change. The real difficulty doesn't hide behind a login screen or a server connection. No, it hides in the human handoff. It hides in the approval logic and in those messy accountability layers. It fails when a human has to sit there and decide whether they can trust the AI's output, and the business hasn't given them any sort of framework to do so.
So the very next time your leadership team is looking at a shiny new AI tool, the question isn't just, can IT implement this? I mean, they probably can. The much better, much more profitable question you need to be asking is, has the business been designed to use this properly?
Because, as we've explored throughout this explainer, installation is technical, implementation is operational, and that is where the value is actually won. If your AI project is technically live but not operationally useful, it is time to take a serious step back and design the workflow, evaluate your readiness, map those human handoffs, and make absolutely sure your business is built to leverage the technology you are pouring money into. So, ask yourself right now, is your business ready to implement, or are you just installing? Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and we'll catch you in the next one.